We're about to get started. I know it is the counter on the screen said the show doesn't start for a few minutes, but cut us some slack. We're hanging out.
WCPT doesn't have enough sponsors. Help us out, guys.
All right. Yeah. Okay. We'll bring it out.
You just want to throw some money? You want to have your own ads for whatever? You just want to have a Hal and Johnny ad, by all means. 10 seconds.
It's a great idea. Thank you. Yes, right now. We're about to get going.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Live exclusively for WCPT in Chicago, standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for joining us, as you often do on these Saturdays. I'm Hal Sparks. My buddy Johnny Million is with us. He's at JohnnyMillion1 on Twitter. I'm at Hal Sparks on Twitter. Feel free to troll us there. I had a hard time coming up with a name for today's show. I was telling Johnny before we started on the air that the clown car of criminality was one of them, and I settled on the creeps come out at right, and but I mean it just goes on and on. So today, obviously, a lot of news broke that in a normal universe would blow everything else out of the water news-wise. The Matt Gaetz revelations that Joel Greenberg, literally confessed in trying to get a pardon through Roger Stone that he and, we'll get to that, that he and Matt Gaetz engaged in sexual relations with a minor.
With children.
We're seeking, he was going to pay $250,000 in Bitcoin. Wow. Welcome to 2021. To buy his way out of it through Roger Stone, that Roger Stone would be the conduit. We'll talk about that. Also, Rudy Giuliani's raid this week on Wednesday, which is hilarious. I have to tell, okay, anybody who thinks this is a new revelation, please go back 2 years to when Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, no relation to Abe Froman, the Sausage King of Chicago, Igor Fruman, even though the same root basic, linguistic name, just a different pronunciation. Igor and Lev started cooperating when they were arrested during the Trump administration for all kinds of, international shenanigans. And in the process, they, like everybody else who finds themselves in this situation, got their electronic devices and their information and their files seized and all that. And in that, they found, obviously, stuff that relates to their conversations with and through Rudy Giuliani on things that were important to them, that they would like handled in exchange for stuff that Trump and Giuliani thought was important to them and that they would like handled. And there was this kind of quid pro quoing going on all the time. They were all screaming about the quid pro quo, and there was no quid pro quo.
It's always deflection.
It's
every
so
single time.
Much quitting and proing and quoing. It was just a filthy mashup of quid proing and quoing. It is amazing. And so, Wednesday morning at 6 a.m., the FBI, 7 FBI agents, quite professionally, knocked on the door of Rudy Giuliani and said, "We have a warrant. We need to seize your electronic devices, all your electronic devices that are communication devices." Let's be abundantly clear about that. Meaning, anything that hooks up to the internet and that is used to convey information. So your phones, your laptop, your iPad, and if you have a desktop computer, which he does not have, we're going to take that too, right? Rudy at one point says, "Why aren't you taking Hunter Biden's hard drive?" I told him, he said this on Tucker Carlson. I told him I had 3 copies. He had 3 Hunter Biden hard drives. Why do you have 3 copies of something? It's nuts. So, and thank you for the super chats, guys. I appreciate that. Welcome and good morning. So Rudy Giuliani has all of his devices seized after clearly a grand jury has been convened. They have looked at the evidence that was gathered when they arrested Lev and Igor, and they went, "Oh yeah, go get his stuff." And Rudy's defense is the only and he said this. We went over it on my live stream yesterday. If anybody wants to check it out at infotainmentwars.com or nudesmax.com, if you want to go there, either one will take you there. That he said the only reason, this is amazing, the only reason that you get a search warrant for evidence is if, and this is Rudy Giuliani's reasoning, this is a man who used to run the office of SDNY or whatever, the U.S. AG office there, and was the DA for New York and went after the mob and used RICO allegedly to broom the mob out of New York, so the Russians and Chinese could move in. But never mind. What if that's... So he said the only reason you get a subpoena for evidence is if you think the person is going to destroy the evidence or leave town. No. You get a subpoena or a warrant for evidence because you believe that evidence is evidence. Like there is...
Yep.
I mean, that blew my mind. There's seldom in this whole thing have I been shocked by the idiocy going on here. Because most of the time I write off, his stuff as just lies, right? Because in my estimation, having watched and have you watched any of Rudy's Common Sense show?
not since this stuff went down.
It's magic. Is
there an excess of saliva?
No, there are a lot of brain farts. There's a lot of him just kind of while talking about the fact that Biden can't put a sentence together. There are a lot of brain farts while saying Biden has dementia and doesn't know what he's doing. Literally, Rudy Giuliani will effectively shut down for seconds at a time, trying to come up with, wait for it, the name of his own show. He'll literally start with, hello, it's Rudy Giuliani, and welcome to Rudy Giuliani's
I can't really throw
Common
stones
Sense.
because when people ask me my age, I really hesitate, and that doesn't change.
Yeah, but you're not doing a show at the time about your age. And you haven't prepped all day to do a show called Johnny Million is 51 or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, that's, if you're naming your show...
Johnny Million. All right, well, that's my podcast now.
Right, Johnny Million is 51. That's what I mean. If that was the name of your show, you wouldn't. Would you forget it? Would it be would it be mentally deep sixed along with where are my keys and what did I come in this room for? No, it would not. So Rudy Giuliani, for those of you who don't know, this is, let's see.
Yeah, maybe some people don't know what happened.
Yeah. So Rudy Giuliani, over the course of the last couple of years, at the behest of Donald Trump, and the success of the Hillary email scandal that turned out to be nothing. And if you don't believe me, ask William Barr, because he's the one who oversaw the rest of the investigation and shut it down with a whimper, not a bang. About a year ago. There is no there. There was no there. The 30,000 emails that were never spoken of. There's no such thing as an email that disappears. There's no version of reality. And I don't know why I have to explain this to people, where an email only exists in one place. What are you talking about? And there is also no situation where, when it comes to national security or government email accounts or persons working in and for the government with security clearances, that the government doesn't have a proactive ability to subpoena the accounts of the people those people might be sending emails to. So whatever Hillary's server fantasy they wanted to build up, the only purpose of a server is to route documents or store documents. That's it. The server has hard drives hooked up to it, which store copies of stuff in case the power goes out, and they also bounce stuff through. That's why they're a server. That's where the name is rooted in. You know what I mean? Okay, so I can't believe that these idiots always thought they bleach bitted and destroyed 30,000 emails. No emails, and nobody knows this better than Donald Trump. It's why he doesn't use email. Donald Trump has, for years, since email came out, been completely paranoid and only sends stuff.
With good reason.
Yeah, only sends stuff through email that he is either fine with being discovered or hopes will be discovered to counteract the stuff he wrote on paper. So what you do is write, never do anything illegal. CC everyone in an email. And then write on a piece of paper, do this illegal thing for me, would you? And and then tear this note up when you're done. Carter Page. Anyways, so point is that over the last, that whole thing fell apart. But it was incredibly successful. It worked. It diminished the vote for Hillary in key areas. The entire, she's a crook, she's involved in this, the 30,000 emails, where are the servers? Russia, if you're listening, if you can find the 30,000 emails, you don't need Russia to find them. The DOJ and the DOD and the State Department have access to everything, always. It's silly. So,
I really didn't think it would work.
And it did, and they were looking for another bite at the apple. So the interesting thing is, and I guess it's because we live in a society where everything is a reboot. Seriously, are there no original ideas? And so what Trump decided to do with the help of Igor, Lev, and Rudy, when is that? Please, Netflix, please let me play Rudy Giuliani in a big kind of bloviated Cheney suit like the one that like Christian Bale wore. With Lev and Igor. I want to play all
or just
three
like Jiminy Glick. Why hold back?
Totally. I want to play all three of them like a Klumps movie. I would God. Just the Borat level sex scenes would be horrifying. So anyways, the three of those guys, Trump decided these guys are uniquely capable, and therefore I will send them marching across the earth to get me another one of those. Literally, like it's a fish delight or or another slice of chocolate cake. Get me another email scandal. Get me another computer. I don't have any emails. They have emails. Let's use their stuff against them. I mean, you can see the roots of the paranoia that Trump has in what he uses to attack everyone else and why he thinks everybody's a crook because I'm a crook, and the only difference between me and them is I don't use email, so their emails must be just full of criminality. And then they go and find out, actually, there aren't. We'll make some up because emails don't have signatures. How easy is that? And that brings us to the next chapter in Love for Sale, The Adventures of Igor, Rudy, and Lev in Ukraine. We'll do them when we come back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Love brokers. You and me, buddy.
I like wood.
All right, so.
Yeah, you do.
Oh, my God.
Deeper and longer.
I know I'm overusing that one these days, but still.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's normal.
All right. Yes? Sorry?
I just want to let you know we got Carla, the intern, here. Say hi.
Hi, Carla.
She's going to be running the board for us today, so just tell
Excellent.
her how mad you and Johnny will be when she messes up.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, Carla.
No mistakes, Carla. No mistakes.
Yes. Right. Pressure.
I messed up once and Hal shaved my entire head.
That's true. Yeah. Don't sweat on the board. It'll short out. So as you get more and more nervous.
Nice to meet you, Carla.
Yeah. Nice to meet you and welcome and thank you for being with us in reality, all jokes aside.
No, thank you, and nice meeting you.
Hi. All right. So, let's see. Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman. Oh, God. Yeah, they were arrested by the FBI in 2019.
Okay.
Oh, God, these people are... Oh, it's just
Whoever led the impeachment case was on Rachel Maddow last night and said something along the lines of they don't stage a raid until they've already got all the information they need.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no. This is... I mean, ultimately, this is... I'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
2015, oh yeah, that's normal.
We'll also be talking about the Arizona audit, which is awesome, by the way. For everybody who might be listening in troll world that thinks somehow Democrats and liberals and progressives are upset that they're auditing the vote in Arizona, no, it's hilarious. It's impotent, it's silly, and we'll talk about it at some point in the next hour because it's
And
hilarious.
what can't a black light do, really?
Honestly, yeah, it's really. I feel like they've watched too much Forensics Files or not enough. I can't decide.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let's get back to the lovely adventures of Lev, Igor, and Rudy in Ukraine. So, in 2019, Lev and Igor were arrested by the FBI. Okay, they were taken into custody for all of this shenanigans, for trying to muck around in the U.S. election and influence peddling and attempted bribery, and they were arraigned in New York by SDNY on conspiracy and other charges related to campaign finance violations. So they were basically like funneling money. Basically, it was a bribery scheme. I mean, they'll call it campaign finance, but it's a bribery scheme. Like, we'll slip you some campaign cash if you do this directly for us. Not like, hey, we support you because you support the kind of taxation that would help us as a company. That's your kind of run-of-the-mill campaign donation scheme. This is $150,000 if you can get this law brought to a floor vote, or if you can change this regulation via executive order, that kind of stuff. So that's what they're brought in. Okay. To better, these guys were working with Rudy and bragging about it. And by the way, both of them were aware at the level of criminality they were engaged in, and effectively always printing compromise on Rudy every turn they could. And it's super obvious from the videos they took and the pictures they took with them and Trump and them and Rudy, that on the one hand, these were advertisements for the very people that were giving them money that they could shave a little off and keep themselves, and then they would pay through to Rudy and Trump or whoever was acting on his behalf. They knew that they would need to go, hey, here's a picture of me with the president. This is a real picture. We were at Christmas. Rudy brought us to that. Rudy brought us to this wedding reception. Rudy brought us to, the Hanukkah party. This is all true. They went to this stuff, and Rudy Giuliani was their escort, right, for lack of a better word. And they used that to advertise that to the very people and to remind the people who were paying them. By the way, they were both born in Russia, living in Ukraine, like all the other sock puppets trying to undermine the Ukrainian government so that Russia can take it back over again. And these guys also very regularly took videos with them and Rudy where he would name drop people he was interacting with, like Moishe, whoever that is, and making him basically say, like, hey, can't wait to see you again, about someone who very well might be, and we don't know, but very well could be, a woman with an alternative economic, how do I put this, standard, methodology. I don't know. Something Matt Gaetz would Venmo for. That's what, just put it that way. Yeah. So, intentionally doing this. They were obviously and regularly not just creating these pictures for these folks that were promoting them and giving them money, but also in case they get busted, we're not going down as the two lapdog suckers of this dude. And so the minute, they did a big interview with Rachel Maddow in, I think it was October of 2019. When they got busted and they were out on bail, they started singing. They started singing not just to the press, like, his attorney, Lev's attorney was, regularly, he had a hashtag, Let Lev Speak, which, every time I hear it, I would think of Let Love Rule by Lenny Kravitz. Let Lev speak. You got to let Lev speak. Right, so that always would go through my mind whenever that came up, right? So they started talking, and they have not stopped.
Apparently. Let's
be abundantly clear that Lev and Igor are never, unlike Michael Cohen or others, or and of course they did not have a pardon waiting for them the way Roger Stone did, the way Paul Manafort did, and others. They weren't going to get one. You're not going to pardon 2 Soviet-born Ukrainians who were caught trying to help you rig the election, using fake evidence against the son of your opponent. So that wasn't going to happen. So they know that. Their only way out is total cooperation, rolling. In many ways, the way Rick Gaetz did and the way Michael Flynn was until it looked like until Trump directly signaled, I'm going to give you a pardon. Then Mike Flynn clammed up, hid what he was doing, stopped, right? So there were, let's see, this is from an article in 2019. To better understand the extent of Fruman and Parnas' activities, it helps to follow the work of 2 unofficial investigators on opposite sides of the world who steadily scratched at clues and raised flags. Neither of them was able to see the full picture. One sleuth, an expert on money and politics, was in Washington. The other was in Kyiv with an eye on corruption in Ukraine. The first was a guy named Trevor Potter. He has a D.C. pedigree. Potter is a Republican who used to run the Federal Election Commission and served as a general counsel for John McCain's 2000 and 2008 presidential campaign. So obviously an un-American stooge fighting for rhinos, right? And these days, in the parlance of Trump, these days, Potter runs a group called the Campaign Legal Center. 3 words that very much upset the right. His team scans political contributions looking for suspicious transactions and reports it to authorities. Good work, guys. Appreciate your work. Even if you were working for the guy I voted against, I don't care. Good for you. All right. In the summer of last year, they found one. A company called Global Energy Producers gave $325,000 to America First Action, the super PAC supporting Trump. When Potter and his team started digging into the company that made the contribution, they found it was a blank slate. It didn't exist. Now, if you'll recall, there was a big one about Mitt Romney at one point, where a company came into existence on a Wednesday afternoon, gave $1 million to a super PAC supporting Mitt Romney, and was out of business by the following day.
Wow.
This was the kind of stuff that these guys look into. And for all the back and forth about, dark money and stuff, that story got less and less news than I thought it would, considering the extraordinary nature of it and how obvious and blatant it was. And you can't look. You can't. You can't even ask. Where'd the money come from? Apparently free speech is also the freedom to, I guess, wear a hoodie walking in the dark unless, I guess, you're a black pedestrian.
Yep.
So the company hadn't existed. It had been formed literally a couple of weeks before the contribution. It had no website, no history of political activity. So you're thinking this is most likely a company created to make this contribution. And that setting up a shell company to hide political contribution is a crime. You have to disclose to the FEC reports that states the true source of the money and who the contributor actually is, right? So Potter and his team wanted to know who was behind the company, so they kept digging, found addresses associated with Global Energy Producers in South Florida, and New York. Now what politician in the last, 5 years would you associate with South Florida and New York? I'll let you scratch around. Yeah. So you take a look at the address and say, has anyone else given from it? That's how they found contributions to Pete Sessions of Texas, who was a Republican congressman at the time, but lost his re-election bid last year. Apparently, there wasn't enough money. The donors were Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, the guys that were globetrotting around the world with Rudy Giuliani. In 2018, Potter's group alerted the FEC about possible campaign violations by Parnas and Fruman, and then nothing. During the Trump years, money going straight into the coffers of Republicans. Sketchy as hell. A Republican organization says this is skeevy, and they go to the Trump DOJ and nothing. Months later, on the other side of the globe, a second sleuth heard the same names, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman. Dale Perry doesn't know anything about campaign finance, but he does know about corruption as well as the energy industry in Ukraine. He owns a large U.S. energy company operating in Ukraine. Yes, you heard that right, a large U.S. energy company operating in Ukraine. All right. Perry first heard of Parnas and Fruman after they met with Perry's former business partner in the March of this year and presented an unusual plan. What was so troubling was it was basically the presentation of the intent to take the gas sector back to where it was during the Yanukovych regime. Yanukovych is who Manafort worked for. Yanukovych is the guy that set up snipers on rooftops to shoot rioters that had been pushed to violence by agent provocateurs in the crowd who all knew that at 10:35, leave the street because the snipers are going to open fire. And that was Manafort's plan, the guy who hired dudes off Craigslist to have sex with his disabled wife whose daughters won't talk to him anymore and was hired by Donald Trump to run his campaign for free. And in exchange, what he got was a change in the Republican platform that kept Ukraine from having offensive weaponry. Like this, it's
So this is all of this reality is why the right invents such cockamamie, crazy things that they think like this big New World Order conspiracy is.
Oh yeah, and this is, by the way, this is two countries, energy money, and a a standoff between and a collaboration between elements of either country to benefit politicians and rich people in those countries. This is not, we're going to put a tracking device, in every human and that the mark of the beast is the vaccine and kooky nonsense like this. This is run-of-the-mill conspiracy. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is business people conspiring in the same way that they would, come up with like the Kushner family would, one of the brothers would hire a prostitute to sleep with his own brother so he could blackmail him to take over the company himself, like that kind of stuff. It's not weird. It doesn't require the pentablet. It doesn't require a Rothschild centuries old anti-Semitic conspiracy that's been going on forever. It's just money. It's just people trying to. It's crooks. It's common baseline mob thievery. That's all it is. And when you look at it in those stark terms, and that's how the Biden administration is looking at it, and we got to take a break. The Biden administration is being very smart about this. And they're doing something that John Kerry got pilloried for when he was running for president, when talking about Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. We'll be back right after this.
Great to be with you, Dick.
All right. So much for that.
Oh, man. Dude,
So much for that, Dick.
Yeah.
Great to be with you, Dick.
This is so... These guys, I don't understand how people, don't grasp, but there is no there in these giant conspiracies. And
right.
you have to just go so hype train and Twitch.
Well, yeah, and you have to every bit of logic and resource. You have to find a way to defame newspapers and every single journalist and every three-letter agency. You have to undo it all.
You have to
believe.
Concoct an idea that black revolutionaries on the street are acting as an army for Jews to, I guess, thin the population down to the original 144,000 families that were, which was really people, but we make them families so that because the earth is much bigger than we thought it was back then. And so the 144,000 families that will be allowed to live on earth, even though I guess inbreeding isn't thought of in these as an issue, but then you'll wipe out, and then it's basically Helter Skelter meets the Turner Diaries meets, some sort of weird Alex Jones zeitgeist, mishmash bullshit. These folks. It's thanks guys. By the way, thanks Papa Sound. Is that what that Papa Sound 60? Yeah. Papa Soup. Oh, Papa Soup 60. There, I couldn't. It's really tiny on my screen right there, so I can't above me. There we go. Thank you, Sarah. Another hype train. Welcome to the show. Thanks for supporting the show, guys. That's the way you do it, by the way, with with cheers and bits on Twitch and stars on Facebook. Hi, Facebook. Sorry you don't have as many trolls as usual, but we actually have people moderating now. Go figure. And then everybody
Back in
on
20.
Thank you. That was Carla. Was that Carla saying back in 20? Look at you. She's doing the job. She's doing it. Killing it. So here we go. Yay.
This is Doris Davenport, host of The Doris Davenport Show. All local, all the time. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So welcome back to the show, and thanks everybody for your support. Patreon.com/Hal Sparks is a great way to support the show, as well as Venmo. We have a little Venmo thing on the screen when you're watching us on our live stream. If you take a picture of it with your phone, you can donate to the show. Any amount is welcome. We're always looking for a whale. I always feel like Steve Martin in that one joke on, I think it was Wild and Crazy Guy, where he's like, $25,000 a ticket, one show, goodbye. So there's and to the twitch.tv/Hal Sparks whales that are out there. Apparently there are Bitcoin whales out there that are magically roll into shows and decide to hit them up big. Hi, I'm actually. Have you ever seen this much information pulled from one man's dome before in the process of recalling the last 2 years of a scandal? No, I think not. So, welcome and thanks. And thanks for the hype train, guys. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can help the show out by going on twitch.tv/Hal Sparks and subscribing to the show using Amazon Prime. And it doesn't cost you anything. Use Amazon Prime, doesn't cost you a dime. See that word? I've got my banter down now. I got to work on it so it's tighter, though. Anyways, back to our story. So, when we last left you, Rudy, Igor, and Lev were traipsing around Ukraine, and magically around that time, a little before that actually, before Lev and Igor were busted, there were news stories floating around that there was information, compromise being shopped around in Ukraine for $3 million. Someone was looking to sell a hard drive with information on it to any takers, and obviously with a wink and a nod to the Trump orbit, that supposedly showed compromising criminal activity both in Hunter Biden's life and in Joe Biden's financial dealings, right? And $3 million gets you this little thing. And imagine being in charge of a country with a $24 trillion economy for the low price of $3 million. So Rudy Giuliani, not wanting to be outbid, ran over there and sniped it with $5 million and came back. And then there were two stories about the Hunter Biden laptop. First, it showed up at a guy named Keith Ablow's office. Keith Ablow, who's a Fox shrink who was lost his license and kicked off the air and is being charged with drugging and having sex with his patients, like a Fox shrink would do. I mean, I don't know why. I'm surprised he didn't get hired after that. Anyways, so originally the laptop showed up at his house and was returned to Hunter, but not before they copied the contents of the hard drive, and Rudy got a hold of it that way with a buddy of his. That story fell apart, so suddenly it shows up at the Magic Blind Repair Shop guys who after they asked for it, found a receipt, but didn't offer it beforehand as proof, and only knew it was Hunter Biden's because it had a Beau Biden Foundation sticker on that, because nobody wants to cure cancer except maybe Hunter Biden. So, and of course, instead of reporting, abandoned material or throwing it away, by the way, the Yelp reviews on this guy's shop must be amazing. If you leave anything there and you miss his phone call, he's going to go through all your documents, I guess would be the Yelp review in theory. By the way, just for the record, in my own belief, in my humble opinion, the Hunter Biden laptop does not exist. The hard drive is a complete fake, and there's a reason why. When Rudy was on Tucker, he said, do you want those hard drives? Those are Hunter Biden's hard drives. He didn't say laptop because there was no laptop. There were just copies of the copies he purchased in Ukraine. All right. He just brought one back and then he copied it multiple times that they were going to sort of pass out to people to start leaking little bits of fake information. They gave, allegedly, a copy of the hard drive in 2019. allegedly Rudy Giuliani stated that he gave a copy of this hard drive to the FBI. And then last September, before the election, said, I've only been able to go through half of this on Rudy's show. What's the Rudy show called again? Rudy Giuliani is 51 years old, I think is the name of the show. Anyway,
yeah.
Rudy's, oh my gosh, thank you, Cassie, for gifting subs on there. Bless you. On twitch.tv/HalSparks. Hi. Over the course of, where was I? Oh, yes, hard drive, Rudy nonsense. So Rudy allegedly has this, these multiple hard drives that are supposedly, Hunter Biden stuff. And he gives one to the FBI almost 2 years ago now. And by the way, Lev and Igor were arrested shortly thereafter, and their devices were taken and that kind of stuff. And I'll allude to why that is. And if you don't know to look it up, look up the term metadata. It's a word that if I had a time machine, I would go back and not tell Rudy Giuliani 2 years ago so I could watch him make these mistakes again and again and again. So he turns in this hard drive, allegedly gives this hard drive to the FBI. The FBI get this hard drive, and instead of going, oh my gosh, this thing is full of the compromising information on Joe Biden, and oh my gosh, Joe Biden, the former vice president who's currently not in office, and at that time is like the fifth person in line possibly. Bernie was going to run away with it if Elizabeth Warren didn't snake it from him. And who's this Mayor Pete guy? And Joe Biden's last in the pack. His granddaughters and his daughters, and his children hadn't said pop run yet, even at this point. But suddenly it's super important. The FBI is so afraid of Joe Biden, right? I don't know, because Trump is running things. It's amazing how stupid you have to be to buy this crap. But the FBI gets a copy of this alleged hard drive. And they don't arrest Hunter Biden. And they don't arrest Joe Biden. And they certainly don't lock up Hillary Clinton and Huma Abedin and put them in Gitmo and assassinate all of them like the QAnons we're talking about. What do the FBI do when they actually get it? They arrest Lev and Igor, and then they start looking at Rudy Giuliani's electronic accounts. They get a warrant to look at his iCloud account. The president's lawyer, understand what they had to have discovered in this process to be able to get a warrant to look at Rudy Giuliani's iCloud account, where he stores all of his documents and his emails go through. Do you understand what they have to have gone, oh my God, what is happening here? I'll tell you, part of it was Rudy Giuliani, as a moron, walked in a faked piece of evidence into the FBI that has his fingerprints all over it. And they went, we've been following these guys, Lev and Igor, because of stuff we were tipped off to 2 years ago. And we know that they traveled with him. We're going to need to look at his emails because this is the same deep fake pictures and emails and fake text messages and stuff like that we saw passing through these guys' accounts are now showing up on this fake hard drive that Rudy Giuliani walked into us because he thought Trump ran the place and therefore he could do it. It's like watching a grown man just stomp a rake over and over and watch the handles smack him in the face. And to be that stupid that you think the American Federal Bureau of Investigation does not have the means and wherewithal to scan a hard drive that you turn in as evidence that can also see what was erased off of it first, where the information that was put on it came from, and the metadata of the pictures, the video files, the emails that came in and out of it, what modifications were made and when to those emails. So you take a real email, you add 4 extra sentences to it that look a little sketchy, and then you put it back and you think, oh man, I just signed I basically forged a document and put it in the folder. And you don't think they can see the whiteout on the paper, you moron? And he walks in there, and that's why, even though he's the president's lawyer at the time, think about that for a second. Donald Trump, who's the most vindictive president we've had since J. Edgar Hoover really ran the joint, and the most like conniving wannabe mobster since Dick Cheney. And I think a lot of us are just thankful that he's not as clever as Dick Cheney in his evil workings, because had he been, we'd be in a lot more trouble. If Trump had any discernment, if he really did hire the best people, if he really was capable of hiring the best people, we would be in a horrible position right now as a country. But he's not. He hired idiots. Who hired idiots? Like, you have to understand, as dumb as Rudy is, he was dumb enough to hire Lev and Igor. It would be upsetting if it weren't so beautiful. It's just so beautiful. It's just, mwah. I can't tell you the joy I've experienced watching this play out over the last couple of years. And you know, if you've watched my stream over the last year, or even watched our show every Saturday for the last years, or listened to it, that I have never, ever been shaken by anything presented as alleged evidence against Joe Biden and Hunter Biden by this crowd. Because the absolute, like, ham-handed mockery of an investigation that they've been flailing about over the last few years has been so beautifully ridiculous that why would you ever? That's a reason why Biden's smiling about this and going, I love my son, and he's had his troubles, but we're very proud of him. That's why.
Yeah.
How could you say that when this stuff comes out about your son? Because that's not stuff about my son. And I'm not going to pretend some of it's real when other parts of it aren't, and they've been fused together by Russian, operatives in Ukraine.
Right.
And step on a rake, you're laying in my yard. I'm not that dumb. That's Rudy's job. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, mega worldwide. Thank you, Cassie Hill and Tony and Norman, for your subs on Twitch, twitch.tv/Hal Sparks. If you're, come on, man. Help us out. Love you guys. We'll be back right after this. I feel like Madeline Kahn and Clue. Flames burning my face. And again, I can't be more grateful that Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump Jr. and everybody in their circle are such blatant morons. I can't stress that enough. Just dumb. Just magically dumb. To walk that hard drive into the FBI. Do you know how egotistical you have to be? And not, I want to save something for the air, because I have a question that I'm going to ask. And I'm going to ask it of the chat and of you, Johnny.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm going to get me a sip of water. I'll be back.
I think that's wise.
Watch the cat.
I will. And I'll put me on the screen. Hi, guys. While Johnny's getting a drink of water. Big drink of water that he is. Thanks for your support, guys, today. I really appreciate it. My brain has been elsewhere because of, I'm in Florida doing Shakespeare, and for those of you who don't know, everybody knows. But so my brain has been, a section of the hard drive is dedicated to that, and I haven't been promoting the show and doing the stuff that I'm supposed to do to grow this thing, and I'm trying to get better at that. That's my new contribution to my own channel, is that I'm gonna and I always avoid the promo sort of stuff because I feel like it's ham-handed and gross, and I just like having a conversation with you guys. It's why I don't have advertisers on my regular stream. It really is. I've had offers. You guys have seen it, like Stuttering John's like, hey, call this guy. You'll get get ads on your. I don't want them. Rather just hang out and talk.
This is Damian Perdue of Think Theory Radio, Saturdays at 6 p.m. You're listening to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh, yeah, that's normal.
So, welcome back to the show. I have been, and I have a question. I have a question for our listeners. 773-763-9278 is our number. 773-763-9278. I have a question. Indeed, I have a question for Johnny Million. I have a question for the people in the chat room. And I guess the question is Rudy Giuliani, how do I put this? Crook or moron? And here's the reason. Okay, because do you think Rudy Giuliani would be able to notice the difference if somebody was selling him something? Notice the difference between a deep fake and a real photograph. Like most of us right now, deep fakes are pretty good right now, right? Photoshop's pretty good, right? But there's the uncanny valley where a lot of us are like, something's funky about that picture. We might online, if it goes through our feed, we might go through and go, oh my God, is that Tom Cruise on a golf course? And then you watch it a second time, you're like, something's funky. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't cost us anything. Everybody's saying both in the chat room. Banjo Battle says crookadoodle-doo. I think there's there's merit to that. They're both customers of Epstein, says Rooks Hoover. And Morin, I think he actually believes it. The man has tried to use his Apple Pen backwards. That's true. Well, that goes to the whole technology thing, because you have, this idea that they're talking about how Biden is on par to be our most tech-savvy president so far. I mean, that's kind of amazing that at his age, and
that's pretty crazy.
I've done. Many people know the joke I've done in my act. If you've seen my act, and if you haven't, I'm not going to restate the joke. But it's basically about buying my grandmother a cell phone, a smartphone, and how the guy at the store didn't want to sell it to us because she's too old to deal with it. And my case, that the opposite is true. That old people have been around and they've been through more iterations of technology than you have. If you were born right now, you couldn't go back and operate a rotary phone. They can do both. So in the case of Joe Biden has a phone. Trump lives on his phone, and they're basically the same age. Couple of years difference, right? Same generation. But Trump lives on his phone. I mean, he doesn't understand that they can be hacked, and that's where he's dumb. And the same thing is true of Rudy Giuliani. But Rudy Giuliani on his show, Rudy Giuliani is 51 years old and with greasy hair. He often will have two iPads sitting in front of him on his desk. And he will use them, and as one person in our chat room noted, he will oftentimes use his Apple Pen backwards. But that's partly because in his time, he's used pens and written, which a lot of kids don't do anymore. They just type stuff. And over time, as an older man, he got, we all used just the rubber-tipped styluses for a good long while. It didn't matter the end. And you had a fine end and a round end for some things just to direct it using it like a little wand, right? Mm-hmm. So over the over the course of watching Rudy Giuliani sort of, figure that part of it out, and yet at the same time, a little learning is a dangerous thing, being ridiculously dumb about everything else, incriminating himself. So this guy, Perry, who was looking after the Levin Igor, and who was really concerned that these guys, and I understand, these guys are crooks, they are luckily bad at their job, but what they are moving to do, like the statement by the guy, and his name, that was looking into Dale Perry, who was looking into Levin Igor's businesses in Ukraine. Understand that he was saying what was so troubling was it was basically the presentation of the intent to take the gas sector back to where it was during the Yanukovych regime. Okay, That is, understand this, back to where it was during the Yanukovych regime. That was before Hunter Biden joined Burisma. So understand this, and understand what was going on in the Ukrainian energy sector at that time. Russian sock puppets were trying to undermine the energy sector there, were being paid by Russia to do it so that Russia wouldn't have to compete with Ukraine for getting oil and gas to Europe, so that the big pipeline that Russia's trying to push down, that we're arguing about Russia with, right, that everybody's talking about, that Ukraine couldn't compete with that, and Europe could go, let's see, we can either get our natural gas from Russia, who, is run by a maniacal mobster who's pushing, having people push doctors out of windows when they say the truth about COVID and the Sputnik vaccine, and is trying to kill Navalny and is murdering, dissidents in parks in Germany. We can choose between buying our oil and gas from them or from the Ukraine, which is a free ally of Europe. Well, how do you stop them from making that choice? You undermine the oil and gas sector in Ukraine. You bury it. You make it unprofitable. You make it inept. You destroy sections of it. You make it so that no one would invest money in it, because it will. Why would you invest in a pipeline in Ukraine that gets, the oil and gas from there into Europe, if you know full well that the money you invest is going to go into Russian coffers? It's going to be siphoned out. And not only is it going to go to Russia, just straight up cash out the door, the $1 million you put in is going to be $950,000 in the pocket of Vladimir Putin and his friends, and that people are going to get murdered along the way, but that the money that is given to Russia is going to pay for the bullets that are being fired back into Ukraine to actually help finance the takeover of Ukraine. After Crimea, that was the fear. Yeah. That was what Yanukovych and his crowd, that's what that prosecutor that everybody's saying he bragged about getting right. Yeah, he bragged about it. The guy was a crook. He was working on behalf of the Russians. He was undermining the Ukrainian government so they could not be free. And a democracy where they could have free and fair elections, and you don't have snipers on rooftops, right? So over the course of that, in making that decision, this guy recognized that, oh my God, these guys are trying to undermine the Ukrainian government and the Ukrainian gas sector so that they can go back to that system where the Russians could slowly but surely chip away at the Ukrainians' belief that they could have a functioning government and a society of their own, so that they would basically beg to go back into the arms of Russia so that they wouldn't be run by this corrupt nonsense, or that it was at least a level of corruption they were used to. That's the hope, right? And when Hunter Biden and his investment buddies came in, they were bringing in money from all over the world into the Ukrainian oil and gas sector. And their job, and why they got such a big fee, was to sit there with their arms crossed on the board and make sure that that money got spent on pipelines and pumps and drilling and not funneled into Russia, which ticked off Russia and made them an enemy of this. So they immediately went, okay, Hunter Biden, his dad's probably going to run. He's the former vice president. Even if he doesn't run, we can go, this is just this is a situation where people are influence peddling. That's what we do, so we'll just tar them with that. So that's precisely what happened. They started this plot a while back because they want to go back to that system. And Hunter Biden and his buddies were sitting there making $85,000 a month amongst the three of them, watching $1.5 billion get invested in the Ukrainian oil and gas sector because the investors were expecting over time a $20 or $50 billion return once that was done. So if you're making $85,000 a month, shepherding $1.5 billion through that everybody's trying to steal, and you're in charge of it, and you're on the hook if it gets stolen, by the way. Yeah. You're never going to work again, and a lot of these people are dangerous. These investors are, you have car accidents when you mess with $1.5 billion of some of these people's money, because it was Saudi princes and all kinds of people who were wanting to invest in this because they're running out of oil and gas. That's another story. That they wanted to go back to this. And unfortunately for them, Hunter Biden and his buddies were in the way. And so this scheme was hatched to stop it. And Donald Trump would be the delivery system for it, and Rudy Giuliani would help them craft this. And as soon as Hunter Biden left that board, the original owner of the company, who'd been living in exile during that time, came back to the country.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be back right after the news and a couple of... we got to do that stuff. Thanks for listening. It's the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We'll be back right after this. So, I don't... Like this, again, I wish this was more complicated. And they try to make it really complicated, but it's, and I I watch people try to make this a big web or something, and it's pretty linear. It's pretty basic. It's pretty obvious if you break it down as you kind of, Cosmic Rose, thank you so much. My watch was on sleep. Oh, thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Gail. Appreciate that. Love you too. Thanks so much. And blessings to you. Yes, Putin does like to poison people. It's true. And it may have to do with his individual cowardice as a human being. That wet works might upset him, or he just thinks they're not effective. It may be that he's less evil or more evil. It's hard to say. But at this point, he's yet another world leader who is aging in his position.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's see. One of the part of the plan was Parnas and Fruman described at the meeting was to replace the head of Ukraine's state gas company. Another part was to replace U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine, Maria Yovanovitch. Because Maria Yovanovitch was the one that she got drummed out, and they were like, and Trump's like, get rid of her. And it took a little more time than he thought it did. I've never seen anybody in any part of the world where I've worked, and I've worked in some 30 different countries, I've never seen a business person claim they could see an ambassador removed. Like, Jesus. Here you go. In Ukraine, Perry put all of his concerns into a memo and sent it to a contact at the U.S. Embassy. At times when I was putting this together, I felt like I was paranoid and going a little bit, I don't want to say a little bit crazy, but maybe I would say it that way. Well, that's what you do. Like, this is so obvious. You're like, am I nuts? Maybe I'm paranoid, because why doesn't everybody obviously see these three things? And you're like, with all the QAnon stuff that's rolling around and people screaming to high heavens that shit's going on in the basement of Comet Ping Pong when it doesn't have a basement, and people are showing up in the road with guns in front of the place and shooting up the place, trying to free children, and that there's videos, purporting that there are gallows in front of the White House for weeks, that Biden is doing his addresses from a set at the Amazon studios instead of actually the White House, that he's not allowed in the White House by some military tribunal nonsense. I mean, it's just, while all that stuff's going on, if you're sitting there talking about, no, this is just graft. It's just graft. That's all it is. It's just bribery and graft. It's just a scale thing. This is like a mayor giving out, shadowy contracts to his buddies. John, have you seen the Chicago Code? The show, The Chicago Code, Jennifer Beals?
Yeah, I remember that one.
It was only on for one season. It's so goddamn good.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
It's so good. And the reason I don't think it went on is because it's like a good novel. It didn't need a sequel. The whole story played out in the first season.
Yeah.
Stuttering John is calling me in the middle of my show. Dude, do you not know? Every Saturday, I have my
He'll figure it out.
Bless his heart. I'm on the radio. Thank you, Janice. He wants me. Yeah, he does. He wants me to come on his show to talk about something. Yeah, so funny. I need to have
Be back in 20.
Thank you. I need to have an auto response on my FaceTime and phone when you can, like, I can't talk right now. They give you those auto responses. I need one that says I'm on the radio.
Be back in 5.
4, 3, 2.
I like wood.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Puss-faced little pimp stick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Free health care for illegal... look.
Welcome back to the show. Today's show is sponsored by... I don't know, it's the name of it's a Ukrainian oil and gas company. I can't remember how you pronounce...
The Burmese executives.
Right.
So this Burmese, they say, pronounce it Burmese.
By the way, no one has ever said that to anyone. The company's name is Burisma. Or I suppose if you're trying to build up a story in 2019...
The company that his son worked for, that's Burmese.
Buramisma.
Burmese.
Right. So the guy who put this story together, who was dealing with this, saying... He said, Dale Perry said, at times when I was putting the story together, I felt like I was paranoid and going on a little bit. I don't want to say, he says, and going a little bit, I don't want to say a little bit crazy, but maybe I would say it that way. Because it's, again, what Trump was attempting to do with Rudy Giuliani and Lev Parnas is baseline bribery. It's just, you do this, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It is the kind of stuff you would see old Chicago alderman criminality, just on a scale, just blown up a little bit. The kind of stuff that Trump would try in blackmailing a building contractor so he could get an extra floor added to a building that he didn't even invest in. He just was going to slap his name on it. And just like, well, it's a matter of scale. If we can get, all you have to do is get 10 more people to say yes and 20 more people to keep their mouth shut. Well, that's a matter of power at a certain point, in theory. The problem is scrutiny gets bigger once the dollars get bigger because a lot more other people have their money on the line. And when it comes to worldwide investment in the Ukrainian oil and gas sector, if you're going to attempt to undermine an entire country that is allied with the rest of our allies in Europe, that's dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And so watching this play out has just been beautiful. Now, we are... I would be remiss if I didn't cover the fact that all the way across town, in the southern Florida part of this story, there is also a lot of sketchy monetary stuff going on around young Matt Gaetz. Now, young Matt Gaetz is the son of, I think his name is Don Gaetz. He's a local state rep or a state senator in Florida, who's had a long and storied history of starting a nonprofit healthcare company, turning it into a for-profit one, and then selling it to a giant company and becoming a millionaire. And if you'll recall, by the way, I guess what's the linkage between Rudy Giuliani and Matt Gaetz, other than the fact that they are complete and utter morons in terms of criminality, and they are incapable of operating any kind of big equipment when it comes to... They probably make, both of them, between the two of them, fairly decent shoplifters. But neither one of them is going to, pull off a giant bank heist, Yeah,
they've got the conscience for the criminal life. They can rationalize anything.
Yep, just not capable of pulling it off. Thank God. And so we know that Matt Gaetz has his own Lev and Igor in Joel Greenberg. Joel Greenberg is a former Seminole County tax collector who loved to wear a badge and a gun like he was a cop, which, again, having grown up in Kentucky and knowing the descendants, literally going to elementary school with the descendants of moonshiners, who, by the way, transformed their careers and left the criminality of bathtub gin and distilleries, fake bourbon, and went to the totally legit industries of giant corn and tobacco fields with pot fields in the middle of them hidden in the greenery, up on the up and up, as it were, that you're aware that the revenuers, which is what they used to call the tax collectors, were the guys who would come after you to bust you for having stills, for growing illegal crops. One of the ways they get you, besides having a controlled substance, what do we do if he's already sold it? It's out the window. He's just got a bunch of money, but we don't have any proof. He's got a bunch of plants. I don't know if I ever told you this, Johnny, but my dad, across the river from across the creek, across the Elkhorn Creek from our house in Kentucky, a woman and her husband lived there, and she was an actress. She was the only person I knew that was a professional actor when I was a kid. She was in Coal Miner's Daughter. She's the one that shacks up with Tommy Lee Jones and is in the car when Sissy Spacek throws the car open. That's the actress. She's played by my neighbor across Elkhorn Creek, Susan Kingsley. And she was also a chorus girl in Popeye. She got some work. And sadly, she was killed in a car accident. And that was a lesson to me in some ways to go for your dream early, because she sort of she got her career was a lot slower taking off because she lived in Kentucky and they didn't move out of there. But her husband was a farmer, and he farmed on the hillside behind the creek that was across from our place. And one of the ways they paid the bills was they grew pot. The cash crop of pot has kept Kentucky afloat forever. That's why, Mitch McConnell surprised everyone with coming out as pro-hemp at one point. Well, hemp is one of the ways that you kind of hid the pot that you had, right? You'd grow it and rotate it as a crop. And still, it was on the DL in Kentucky, right? So my dad told this story about we had the Peaks Mill Christian Church in our town, and it was a little white Christian church in every sense of the word. And it was your kind of average run-of-the-mill, small, steepled white church, and with a graveyard and a pastor's house, and that was it, right? And there was some Bible thumpers. We had 3 or 4 of them who were hardcore, borderline Amish in their attitudes, and one of them suspected that our neighbor was growing pot on his property. But he couldn't put it together. And he drove over there one day, and it wasn't this neighbor. It was another neighbor up the road. And he had come over to talk to this guy who lived across from us who was growing pot. And he had just harvested his pot. He was dragging gigantic pot plants up the hill, baled together, so he could remove the leaves and then take the stalks and separate all the stuff, go through the work of it inside the barn. So he would drag it, and here he comes. He's dragging this giant bale of this, it looks like a human-sized asparagus clump. Like when you go to the grocery store and you see asparagus and they've got them rubber banded together. He's dragging this 8-foot-long thing of pot plants. I mean, pounds and pounds of this stuff up his driveway. And here he sees this guy sitting, leaning against his car. This hyper-religious anti-drug crusader. And he is dragging this enormous pile. It's no way he won't know what this is. And he's sweating bullets. Oh my God, what am I going to say to this guy? Here he's there. I can't turn around. I can't roll it into the creek and lose my crop. This is how I pay my mortgage, for crying out loud. He's dragging this thing up, and as he gets closer and closer, he doesn't know what he's going to say, and finally looks the guy in the eye and he goes, "Have you checked your property?" And the other guy goes, "What?" By the way, I'm not giving the names because these people still live there. He goes, "Have you checked your property?" He goes, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "I found this growing on the edge of my property. These kids are growing enormous crops of pot everywhere they possibly can. It's down by the river near my property, whatever. I'm going to take it and destroy it. So I dragged it all up here. I'm going to show it to the cops so they know it's going to happen. And that afternoon, that guy went, oh my God, hopped into his car and drove over to his own property to check and see if these mythical children were growing weed on his property. And while he did it, he stripped all the pot off the plants, and then he burned a giant pile of the stalks so that guy would see the smoke, basically, from the road.
Okay.
To hide the fact that he's like, I'm burning all this stuff so I don't get in trouble. And that level, that sharp thinking, always cut it. And you know me, I don't do any drugs. I have no interest, none whatsoever. I'm not smoking pot. I'm not doing any of it. Everybody else, welcome to. Knock yourself out. Wherever it's legal now, have a fun. I'm not interested. But it certainly cuts against the idea that it makes you thick. Because that was pretty smart thinking. That was amazingly clever at that moment, right? None of these folks, none of the Gaetz crowd, none of the Giuliani crowd are anywhere near that level of clever.
No.
But what was it, besides being completely incompetent, that links these two stories together, Giuliani and Matt Gaetz? I'm going to tell you, we got to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what the linkage is between these two morons and their absolute... Yes, that's true. There's another one, though. Yeah, okay. Touche, my friend. Touche. We'll be back right after this. And we will. And...
Free health care for illegal... look.
There we go. Mm-hmm. Oh, I forgot to get back to the John Kerry thing.
Oh, yeah.
So much stuff. Because it's really simple. It's a pretty simple thing. Yeah. So, hi, chat room. Thank you guys so much. Thanks again to Cassie and Tony and Norman. You guys, and let's see. Yeah, we got less and less trolls. That's all right. Some of them have moved around. Some of them moved to Twitch. So, my hair is very... thank you for the new subscribers. We're still below 700, but, well, we try to keep the number. I mean, do I have to tell you that, like, the right-wingers have tens of thousands of subscribers? Just... Guilt. All right. And let's see. And thank you guys. By the way, thank you, Carolyn, Cords, and Nancy, and Irene, and Bill for not just giving stars on Facebook, but for doing it regularly. The streak is really impressive. And Irene with the 530 stars, like kabam. I have not set up another goal in a long while. That might be... Can Biden bring back the fairness doctrine? No, only Congress could do that. Oh yeah, there's trolls in Twitch because I don't have it on subscriber only for the chat because I allow followers to do it, and I don't want to, I just, I have a real problem with the paywall thing. I know other people do it, and they're...
Second 20.
Thank you. They're just blatant with it, and it feels gross. And maybe that's my issue. It probably is. People probably don't care, but to me, it just...
Second 10.
Thank you. Yeah. Let's see if I can...
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
Welcome back. So I recognize while we were in the break, Johnny and I were talking, and I forgot to tell you guys, that what the John Kerry thing was in terms of dealing with Ukraine and Russia versus that is that when we were talking about the Iraq War and why we got into Afghanistan in the first place and all this stuff and how we end it, John Kerry said we should treat this like what it is, a law enforcement issue, that Al-Qaeda is not a state group, that ISIS now is not a state group. It is a criminal organization. They fund themselves through blackmail, kidnapping, and drugs. They murder people. It's a mob. So treat it like the mob. Work with Interpol, our other countries, weed it out that way. Then you'd have to go, we got to go after Muslims and we got to go after anybody born of Syrian descent or some nonsense, because it ain't that. And it's that's where the Muslim ban, idea that Trump was pushing. Nobody from these countries is allowed in our country because they're dangerous. Well, a lot of the people who are trying to leave those countries and want to come here and contribute because they would be lovely people to have amongst us as immigrants are trying to escape the horror and the violence and that this mob, this criminal endeavor is carrying out. Now, you can have a religious mob. You can have the criminality of the 14th century Catholic Church. You can have Murder Incorporated, the Jewish mob and the like. They're not mutually exclusive. So you can say this particular sect of Muslims, mainly the ISIS crowd, have nothing to do with everybody else. But that's the group we're going after. And we're doing it in a law enforcement way, not this country, these borders, this kind of, because it's an oversimplified idea. And that's where you end up having sympathizers fall through the cracks and end up killing people. So John Kerry suggested, rightly so, that we deal with what's going on there as a law enforcement problem. We cut off their funding. We get them arrested. We recognize who they're coming in contact with. We surveil just like we would with drug dealers on the street. If we know that a drug supplier is calling someone regularly, that person on the street is probably more than likely getting deliveries and sending money to and from, unless they're a direct relative who doesn't have a criminal record, is going, please stop being a drug supplier. Like, I call you every day, 3 times a day, trying to tell you that. Unless they're that, and one wiretap will let you know, and exclude that person, and then you can go back to the busy work of only chasing the criminals, because why would you want to go after the religious grandmother of the drug dealer going, will you please? Come on now. Stop dealing the drugs. So, if we treat what's going on in Ukraine as what it is, which is mob-level criminality, which greases the wheels of its criminality through bribery of government officials, it's not that hard to grasp. It really, really isn't. So there was an article in the Washington Post, I think it was, or New York Times, yesterday, about how that's how the Biden administration is treating Russian conspiratorial behaviors in other countries, murdering people in. Stop looking at Russia like it's a country. The country and the people are not what is being imposed on them from the top down. The functioning government of Russia is not a functioning government. It is a mob. It is a mob-ruled circumstance. And it is not indicative of what the Russian people want. It's not indicative of what would be best for the Russian people. And it's certainly not would be indicative of what they would vote into existence had they the chance at a legitimate election. Or, Putin wouldn't have to have passed a law, signed a bill himself magically that allows him to stay in power till 2036. So you wouldn't need to, right? So what's the tie though between Rudy Giuliani's ridiculous, flailing, moronic criminality and Matt Gaetz's moronic criminality? What is it, Johnny? What do you think?
What's they both think that they all think that they deserve more.
Way too philosophical. They both went on Tucker immediately after getting busted to cover their butts. Tucker Carlson.
Every time you tell me that there's a Tucker Carlson interview with these people, the day after, I'm in disbelief, but I shouldn't be anymore.
Yeah, it is literally Rudy Giuliani goes on the same day as the raid. And again, this raid didn't happen, and then we're going to find out. You know, Matt Gaetz.
Yeah, we were saying during one of the breaks that they don't do the raid until they already have enough.
Yeah, I mean that's when they recognize, because what's happening is that they are looking for the other confirmation that you either tried to erase emails on your own devices or got rid of stuff. Which gives them, what's the one thing that in court, when you talk about the level of a crime, that's very important? It's awareness of guilt. The idea that you know what you're doing is wrong. And that makes the difference between a second-degree murder charge and a first-degree murder charge. If we find text messages that says, I'm going to kill them, and that's why I'm headed over to their house right now, you can't later say, if those text messages were erased or didn't exist or we don't know of them, you could say, look, I went over there just to talk, and he attacked me, and then I defended myself with a knife I had in the truck. Like that kind of stuff, right?
Right.
But if we find those emails or those text messages where you had told people, I'm going over to his house to stab him in the throat, it makes it much harder, right? Obviously. Now, if the government finds out that you said that, but your argument is, yeah, I said that, but it was just hyperbole. I wasn't going to go over there and do that. I was just mad. And then I went over there. I didn't even have, it was
you know how
night.
you say stuff.
You know how you say stuff. Yeah, you know how you email someone that you're going to go murder your ex. Right. Yeah, just
send.
I was mad. Right. Yeah, send. Right. CC everybody. That if you go home and go, while you're washing off your knife and cleaning up your clothes and creating a bonfire of evidence in the backyard, that you go and you erase emails from your devices. Well, get rid of that text, because you're dumb enough to think they only exist on your phone. What does the state have? The state now knows that you sent an email threatening a crime, you went and committed that crime, and then you came home and you went, I threatened a crime, I should probably get rid of that too. You got rid of the evidence, you have an awareness of your own guilt. And therefore, that's the difference between the crime of passion and a planned crime, right? That's why they need your devices. They want to know if you think you can get away, Rudy Giuliani, with hiding your stuff. Or if you thought you deserved the right to do it, which is another one. Like, Your Honor, he has no remorse. He just decided, hey, you're damn right.
And I'd do it again.
Yeah, that's right. You can't handle the truth. That was better than I thought it was going to be.
That was really good.
That was pretty solid, absolutely. You want me on that wall. I'm not going to push it. But
yeah, no, leave it there.
Leave it there. It was good. I'll add that to my one-line impersonation. So these guys, Lev and Igor, get busted. They get all their stuff. They get a warrant for Rudy's stuff, and then they go and get his stuff. Matt Gaetz goes on Tucker that night, and if you haven't heard my song Florida Man, go to infotainmentwars.com and check out my Florida Man song where he gets a name check, as does Trump and the idiots around him. And over the course of watching them do this, over the course of watching, this kind of play out with the Matt Gaetz story, he goes on Tucker and says, this is all crap, never happened, I don't know what they're talking about, they would never. And then we find out yesterday, that Joel Greenberg wrote a letter to Roger Stone saying that he and Matt Gaetz paid for sex with a minor. A 17-year-old girl that they trafficked possibly across state lines. And the density of this letter, and this guy is cooperating. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about Republicans. Does anybody remember 90s Republicans or Reagan Republicans or even the early 2000s family values, right? You can't have gay marriage. It's going to destroy the family structure. These gay people, they're too promiscuous to what? Get married? What does that mean? I was always confused by that. These people sleep around too much, so stop them from trying to be in normal monogamous relationship. I don't get it. So that was the complaint, right? But that's all we ever heard from these morons. The family will be destroyed. The nuclear family is going to be destroyed if we don't let gay people. If we let gay people get married, we are the people. We're good Christianness. Donald Trump has been set by Jesus himself. His guided hand is writing executive orders, making sure that DACA recipients are on thin ice all the time. Like, what? So the idea that these are the mega Christians, right? These are MAGA churches, right? And then, we're up against the half-hour break. When we come back, I want to read to you there's a lot to this story, the Matt Gaetz story and the Joel Greenberg and them hanging out and stuff. That's just run-of-the-mill skeevy bros, right? And there's a lot that I honestly think, when you're talking about consensual adults doing stuff, none of my business. None. But there's some parts of this that stand out, even above and beyond the Trumpsters and maggots writing off Donald Trump's 27 sexual assault allegations and the fact that he's going to have to get deposed by E. Jean Carroll. Go, E. Jean Carroll. She follows me on Twitter. I'm very proud. But even worse than that, like to the point where it makes people who don't normally go ooh. Yeah, we'll be back right after this. Whoops, did I? You can't even. Mm-mm. This, yeah.
Apologetic, I might say. They were very, very professional and very gentlemanly. The only time they got perturbed is at the end of the surge, when they had taken about, I'd say, 7 or 8 electronic items of mine, which is what they took, and 2 of someone else's.
His sons, by the way, I think.
They weren't taking the 3 hard drives, which of course are electronic devices.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
He called it the surge.
Yeah.
Mimic the computer.
Mimic the computer.
Don't you want these? And they said, what are they? I said, those are Hunter Biden's hard drives. And they said, no. I said, are you sure you don't want them? I mean, the warrant.
Please, can we pass a law?
Back in 20.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please pass a law that FBI agents can wear body cams, like little pen cams. You know what I mean? I know they're in suits. They're not the same as like
There's
SWAT guys.
no way that he said all that.
No. It's crap. It's garbage. And they weren't there. They do not exist. I'm calling BS across the board.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the mega worldwide radio program with Hal Sparks.
So there's a lot that's skeevy about this Matt Gaetz, Joel Greenberg thing that Matt Gaetz is saying, like, let's go party in a college town when he's, 34, 33 at the time? And let's go party in a college, find some college parties after the RNC and those kind of things. Like, there's a lot about that that's a little whatever. But again, adults, none of my business. If an 18-year-old college student decides to hook up with a 72-year-old, none of my business. I don't care if they're gay, straight, male, female, none of my business. If you can send an 18-year-old to war, they can choose to have and give them a gun and have them shoot a stranger to defend their country. Everything else, there's like a sliding scale of what you can do in a level of maturity from that point on, right? And if you don't believe that, then by God, make it so that we can only have people who are 25 and older join the military. Knock yourself out. I'm for it. I'll help you march. But if we're going to say 18's an adult, everything above 18, even if I think it's gross, it's none of my business. Because I believe, and I know this is difficult for the Matt Gaetzes of the world, there is a difference between an adult and a child. And there are emotional differences, which you can argue, and that's the kind of maturity factor. But there are legal differences that are mechanical so that they're all cut and dry. We all understand what they mean. Okay? Ages of consent being what they are, adults being what they are. And in the state of Florida, where Matt Gaetz is a sitting congressperson and his father was in state government and they're all locked in, and his best running buddy, who he called a wingman and brought to parties with Roger Stone and DeSantis and all these folks for years, by the way. This isn't like, all these pictures aren't like, oh, look at Roger Stone. He's like 72 in this picture. And he's in all of, no. There are pictures of Joel Greenberg going back years with these guys. So, over the course of it, there's, we know that Joel Greenberg has been cooperating. We know, just like Lev and Igor, Matt Gaetz has his own Lev and Igor in Joel Greenberg. But we haven't until now known what he was saying. What's he giving him? What's he got? Well, we found out that they paid for some of these girls, with Venmo, hiding them as other stuff, which is, if you think Rudy Giuliani is dumb about technology, dude, what are you talking about? Like, it would be weird if at that time of night you went to an ATM and took out $900 and then magically that dude passed out $300 each to people after, right? But you'd at least have some plausible deniability in cash between you and what happened to that cash. That's not my $900. I took out $900. I still have it. Here's $900. Like, just walk around with $900 in you. When the story hits, you go and take $900 that you've been hiding in your mattress out and walk around with it. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful. According to Eric in our chat room, Rudy is holding a press conference in Weehawken this afternoon.
Who is?
Rudy Giuliani is holding a press conference.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy. I thought I was going to get away with not streaming this afternoon, but I guess not. So, can I read to you the skeeviest part of the Joel Greenberg story? Okay, so far, by the way, so far.
Yeah,
because they've got his phones and stuff, and you can't tell me there aren't pictures. You can't tell me that the pictures, we're not going to start seeing some blurred pictures. These are the pictures that Matt Gaetz shared on the House of Congress, on the floor of Congress. And by the way, in case you need a reminder, in the last 6 months, we have had Republicans sharing nude pictures of possibly underage girls on the floor of Congress and other Republican congresspeople giving insurrectionists tours of the building before they stormed the place and wiped excrement on the walls. So it's not your dad's Republican Party. Anyways, okay, so there was a letter, digital, like an email or text, that Joel Greenberg sent to Roger Stone. That, according to the Daily Beast's report, they quote it, they have pictures of it. It says, on more than one occasion, this is Joel Greenberg writing to Roger Stone, where he later says, I'll give you $250,000 in Bitcoin if you can make this happen. And Roger Stone goes, yeah, everybody's freaking out about pardons right now. I'll see what I can do. On more than one occasion, this individual, he's talking about somebody else, by the way, was involved in sexual activities with several of the other girls, the congressman from Florida's 1st Congressional District, and myself, Matt Gaetz. The website, said Greenberg, wrote in reference to the 17-year-old, from time to time, gas money or gifts, rent or partial tuition payments were made to several of these girls, including the individual who was not yet 18. I did see the acts occur firsthand, and Venmo transactions, Cash Apps, and other payments were made to these girls on behalf of the congressman. Let me read that top part again. I did see the acts occur firsthand. The acts. Now you're going, well, that's the payments. He's talking about the acts are the payments. No. He include no, as Rudy would say. No. The Venmo transactions, Cash App, and other payments were made on behalf of these girls in the Congress. That's separate. That's something else. He saw the acts occur. Greenberg appears to have written the letter on the advice of notorious Trump associate Roger Stone, who is also a friend of both Greenberg and Gaetz, and who has hung around, and has his own swingers lifestyle, which is just, what a dandy. According to screenshots obtained by the Daily Beast, Greenberg sought help from Stone in late 2020 and early 2021 in obtaining a pardon from the White House, offering to pay him at least $250,000 in Bitcoin for his assistance. So these guys, again, guys, you're going to pay through Bitcoin for this pardon, right? This is your plan. Sounds smart. Use a crypto. Don't use cash. Don't write a check.
Right.
Use Bitcoin. Well, don't send digital messages about it. How? I should have chosen a life of crime. I would have. I mean, sometimes I feel like Gabriel Byrne in Miller's Crossing.
Wow, that's a pull.
Two sides against the middle, and sitting in there going, the bosses of both of these families, the Italians and the Irish mob who are fighting each other, you're both idiots. You're both idiots. I can't believe I'm working for idiots. This is amazing. Greenberg, using the encrypted messaging app Signal, allegedly told Stone in a series of messages on December 21st that he was facing pressure from federal investigators to, quote, flip against Gaetz. The FBI, DOJ, and Secret Service and a bunch of people from D.C. have repeatedly made attempts to meet with me lately. I have declined, but they are definitely ramping up pressure. They want me to flip. They have made offers. Offers. Beg your pardon. Which I've declined. I even fired my lawyers this week because they tried to convince me to cooperate, and that a pardon was impossible. Rehire your lawyers, Joel. They were right. You putz. You provincial putz. By this time, Greenberg was already facing multiple federal indictments, including sex trafficking charges related to a girl between the ages of 14 and 17. Now, we've been talking about a 17-year-old in terms of this, but under the idea that it was somehow she entered the picture as a 17-year-old, turned 18, and then Gaetz had sex with her when she turned 18. That's basically what seems to be, from what he's talked about on Tucker's show, his fallback safety. I may have met her when she was 17, but I didn't sleep with her till she was 18. But this looks like Joel Greenberg was having sex with and grooming this girl since she was 14 years old. What the hell is wrong with South Florida? And he was also accused of illegally using a state database to look up information about the girl and other people with whom he was engaged in sugar daddy relationships, among other things. So basically, out of fear that he was going to get Chris Hansened, right, Joel Greenberg is using state computers, DMV records and the like, to look up information on, he's like, oh, is she really a 14-year-old girl, or is she a 19-year-old or 20-year-old cop who happens to be short, who's operating, calling me on the phone or running a fake account on one of these sites? I mean, and again, is this some sort of masterful conspiracy? No. This is just run-of-the-mill corruption. There's nothing mysterious or amazing about any of it. It's just some dude, in the old days, it was just some dude looking through files going, yeah, okay, yeah, she graduated and she hasn't graduated high school yet, yeah, that's, this is a real picture of her from the swim meet 2 years ago, that kind of stuff. Going through like microfiche in the newspaper. But he could look up, in this case, use the stuff that was around because he's lazy, stupid, and gross. And although Gaetz' alleged involvement wasn't yet known publicly, Greenberg told Stone in a series of December 21st texts that he had told his former legal team. So the lawyers, by the way, those lawyers, while they may not be able to testify about their clients' participation in this, they can participate. They could arguably say, my client is innocent, but the real crook here is Matt Gaetz, and you might want to go look at this guy. And I'm aware of crimes that he may be committing ongoing with minors or girls that were minors. My lawyers that I fired know the whole story about Matt Gaetz' involvement. He calls him MG. They know he paid me to pay the girls and that he and I both had sex with the girl who was underage. So naturally, they think that this is my golden ticket. Hey, dummy, it was. And I'm so glad they walked. Not because they were people of principle, but because working as your lawyers, they thought this was what they were paid to do, was keep you out of jail and give you the strongest defense possible, even if it meant cutting a deal and getting the hell out of there. Joel Greenberg pulled a Ted Bundy. That's what he did. Joel Greenberg pulled a Ted Bundy. He fired his own counsel for trying to do the best thing they could to keep him out of jail. And Joel Greenberg is on the sexual side of the Bundy criminal world. He didn't kill anybody that we know of, allegedly. I guess I should probably put that in there because this whole skeevy crowd is gross. But Greenberg told Stone that he had not been in touch with Gaetz about the fact that he had told his attorneys and that they were aware. Gaetz has not been charged by any local or federal prosecutors, repeatedly denied any wrongdoing or involvement, saying he has not had sex with any person who is underage. Again, I will point to the fact that Joel Greenberg was making fake IDs for people and that he had been grooming minors, and that when Matt Gaetz, his best defense might be, I thought she was 18 because that's what her ID said. And Joel told me she was 18. He lied to me. And so you're going to have these two guys rolling on each other. According to the Daily Beast, and we got to take a break, but according to the Daily Beast, Greenberg's letters claim that he and Gaetz believed the girl was 19 when they and others had sex with her. Jesus. When Greenberg learned on September 4th, 2017, that she was only 17, Greenberg writes that, immediately I called the congressman and warned him to stay clear of this person and informed him she was underage. Greenberg also wrote that Gaetz was equally shocked and disturbed by this revelation. Well, kids, that's your defense. And it isn't that you didn't have sex with an underage girl. It's that you were lied to or you didn't bother to do your due diligence. But for Joel Greenberg, that's a way out. That's a way out of jail. I was not aware. I saw ID that said the otherwise. And you're like, well, yeah, you made the ID for her, you insane person. But Matt Gaetz, as a sitting congressman, how you gonna what do you think his constituents are gonna feel about his ability to mark up a bill when he's not even bothering to question the age of women he's randomly having sex with, and that he'd had sex with the Seminole County tax collector and several other men, and they may or may not have all been present at the same time. Good Lord. Matt Gaetz, you done, son? Pack it up. I mean, your best bet is say you didn't know and leave, and hope that you can, you can go, I was tricked and saddened and blah blah, and I would never, and I'm happily married now, and that was a terrible part of my life, and yada yada. But not, God, gross. And that whole, that they and others had sex with her. They believed the girl was 19 when they and others had sex with her. That sounds like, from his earlier statement, they were together. What is Florida man? We'll be back right after this.
Wow.
Zachamania says Gaetz will suffer no consequences. You heard it here. I disagree. I think there's going to be ramifications. I think they're going to, because at a certain point, what happens is there's he's not worth it. He hasn't been around for a long time. And if they were, ready to kick Mark Foley or Dennis Hastert to the curb later in the game, those guys weren't discovered until they were past their prime in a lot of ways. This dude has been discovered early. They don't owe him anything. Matt Gaetz hasn't helped them get elected. Matt Gaetz is part of the Trump crowd, and Trump lost them the House and the Senate. Matt Gaetz isn't a winner in this, and Matt Gaetz can run off to get a Newsmax show in a year and go, I was tricked and da-da-da, and they'll totally back him. He'll have a job in that area unless he goes to jail for it, because they may have, text messages where they were informed of this. Yeah, that's right, Andy. And I when I wrote that lyric, turns out he's one sick fucker. When I wrote that lyric, we hadn't gotten this much information. I thought it was just that he was like,
Back in 10 seconds.
Thank you. Using Venmo to pay sugar babies. Is that what I guess they would be? If you're a sugar daddy, is that a sugar lady? I mean, they're adults, so calling them sugar babies, which is a candy. I'm grossing myself.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Now time for the happy ending. Yay!
It is. I'm a little disturbed even just by the statement of that, considering the stories that we've been in addition to contacting Gaetz when Greenberg called Gaetz and said, dude, she was 17 when all of us had sex with her, I guess was something on the order of what was said. Wow. He apparently wrote that he told the girl how serious a situation this was and how many people she put in danger. She apologized and recognized that by lying about her age, she endangered many people. Oh my God, she's a minor. That's one of the reasons why
I don't like this happy ending.
She is not mature enough to recognize the consequences of her actions. That's what makes her a minor. You don't get points for chastising a minor for lying about their age and having sex with you. What are you talking about? She apologized. Did she? Well, did you? I hope you as a gentleman accepted her apology. Get out. So Stone appears in the text messages via Signal to have advised Greenberg last November to create a document that, quote, tells the story fully, but be certain to include your leadership for Trump prominently. Which I think means all the stuff you've done for Trump. Make sure Trump knows that you're a friendly, which Greenberg did. And according to the Daily Beast, though Greenberg's letter outlined his alleged involvement with Gaetz, he also spoke about his support for the president, including as a donor for the infamous Super Trump billboard that appeared along Interstate 4 in 2016. Gee, I wonder if he used the same Venmo account. Good God. At one point in their text exchanges, Greenberg tells Stone he hasn't been in communication with Gaetz. Since he was arrested and indicted on sex charges? What, is he not returning your phone calls now? Boo-hoo. Telling Stone, you need to stress to him the severity of all this. And while I haven't had any communication with MG, he absolutely has to know that the sex charge they hit me with would be what they would hit him with. All he has to do is explain to POTUS the situation and his exposure, and it would be very easy to do. MG is like a son to POTUS. MG is like a brother to me. Talk about daddy issues. Criminy.
What the hell are they doing?
What in the family
what are these
values?
Allegiances? Like what?
Hashtag
what
family values. Say again, sorry?
What are they getting from this? This is horrible.
Yeah. Power. I mean, arguably. I mean, control. There's been a big thing in the Republican Party since the Bush years under Cheney, where they were talking about everybody would have a KMA card on the Republican side, a Kiss My Tookus card, which would be a KMT, I suppose, card that if you're pulled over or some local official tries to mess with you and you're like, no, I got this little presidential waiver card that's going to protect me from any of your stuff. And this was talked about openly by a lot of Republicans back in the day. That this seems to be a natural extension of this, that in the Trump world, there really does seem to be a belief that, it's like a pardon card. Now, the question that comes up, of course, is can Did Trump give Gaetz a blanket pardon in this circumstance that he can whip out? And did Rudy get a pardon for whatever he may have done?
Wouldn't we know that?
Huh?
Wouldn't we know that by now?
Yeah, I would guess my guess is that when Biden smiles about this stuff and plays coy and goes, and he even said, they said, did you know about this raid? And he goes, hand to God, I didn't. I believe him because I don't think he wants to know. And I also think he trusts that the Justice Department is going to find the real criminality there. And like I said, it's one of the reasons why he smiled during this whole, oh my God, have you seen this Hunter Biden awfulness? Hunter Biden just released a book copping to all the real stuff that has been talked about in his life. And the rest of it's all garbage. Like, he knows it's manufactured to try and destroy his dad. That's what you do. You smile, you be honest, you out yourself. It was like the end of 8 Mile. You know what I mean? At a certain point, you just kind of you openly talk about all the negative traits that you have, and nobody has anything on you anymore. It's why trolls can't hit me on being, vain and egomaniacal. And so the point being is that these guys, this is the weird part to it. That letter, where he's trying to get Stone to give him a pardon, where Joel Greenberg is trying to get this thing. Greenberg was clear with Stone that come January 21st, I have to do what's best for me and my family. This is my life. I've got 2 kids. You think MG is going to come visit me in prison? Ouch. Yeah. January 20th. That's the deadline, man. I'm gonna sit on my hands and play nice. If I can get a pardon and Matt can get a pardon, even if it's under the table that I can just wag. Like, if I get my KMA card, then I'll keep my mouth shut for the most part. But come January 21st, come January 21st, I have to do what's best for my family. Funny that he didn't think that back when he was having sex with a 17-year-old in a room full of other dudes gacked up on ecstasy, and was paying for sex with Venmo and pimping for other members of the Florida legislature. Because, by the way, there's a third party involved in all this that's listed in this thing, and then there's multiple other dudes. You think this dude is partying with anybody who doesn't have power? You think he's setting up parties for, like, buddies from his that don't really, that work as boat mechanics in Fort Lauderdale? You think the other guys in these group gatherings aren't connected? This guy, Joel Greenberg, was trying to build a political future on the Jeffrey Epstein business model. He was trying to do what Epstein did, but without the underage girls part. Just right there. 18 and over. If I could just do that, I can avoid all the, what sent Epstein to jail the first time, even though he had a key to the jail and he could come and go, apparently. Even though what he was in there for was for raping a minor. Because you can't have sex with a minor. I mean, I use the term, but when we're talking in a legal sense, when we're talking in a moral sense, you can't have sex with a minor. It's rape. It's rape. This is all rape. Call it statutory rape if you want to and soften the blow. Still rape. And the fact that he even writes in his letter, the ego to say she apologized. Think about that for a second. Think about who you're dealing with. And think about that Matt Gaetz, when he was informed of it, was shocked and horrified. So, and then think back to all the time Matt Gaetz allegedly has gone through a bill and said, this part's bad. Oh yeah, Mr. Due Diligence? Just cretins. So between the two of them, now by the way, come January 21st, I have to do what's right for my family. Mr. I have to do what's right for my family continues. If I get you $250K in Bitcoin, would that help? Or is this not a financial matter?
Yeah, that sentence really caught my eye.
Why wouldn't it be a financial matter? I'll tell you why. Because Matt Gaetz is wrapped up in it. Because other Florida politicians. Look, I can pay you, but there's another compensation that's going on in this, which is not losing, 7 or 10 Republican congresspeople who are thinking they have a future, who think they have a career, who think they aren't going to jail. So, and again, I hesitate to give advice to criminals, but there are so many teachable lessons from them.
They're really bad at it.
They're real. Thank God.
Yeah,
I think that's
there are probably some that are really good at it, but we don't know.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I would like to say that the happy ending is us all seeing the moronic lack of skill in the criminality of the Trumpsters and maggots and his field. Don't even get me started on Steve Bannon stealing wall money from the maggots. I like that. We haven't even talked about that in months. That's still going to go through the courts. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for your support. Thanks for all the support that people have been given via Venmo and via patreon.com/HalSparks. We're trying to get 1,000 patrons. If you can and want to, please do that. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Otherwise, subscribe. Like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. We're almost at 18,000 subscribers. I know, we're a fledgling channel, but that's pretty great. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Johnny Million. You're wonderful.
You.
I like wood.
What?
Deeper and longer.
Oh yeah, that's normal.
I don't know. I'm not good with that.
By the way,
thank you.
Thank you so much, Carlos. Nice to meet you digitally and via the air.
Nice to meet you.
I look forward to the next meet and greet through WCPT once we can get back together. I'm shooting for August. I would love to do one, so hopefully we'll all be able to get together. That would be great. So, cheers.
Definitely. Nice meeting you, too.
Yeah, be well. Okay, and I'm signing off with them. There you go. And Johnny Million, you're fantastic. Did you go for a run this morning? No, you.
Yes, I did 11 miles this morning.
What? 11 miles. That's,
Crazy.
That's crazy. Did you have to stop? Did you have to?
I managed to not do that this time.
There wasn't? You sure?
Captain's log.
I'm sure.
Okay, just checking. All right.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
All right. So.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier.
Yeah. I need to make that one louder because I can't play it over the music. But anyways.
All right. Well, when are you performing tonight?
No, we have. I am actually helping them move the set tonight. So I have volunteered. Wow. I volunteered yesterday, today, and tomorrow to help do that because we had rehearsal. We had a speed read last night. We'll have a little bit of a rehearsal tomorrow, line running, speed reads, and that kind of stuff, as they've moved some stuff over and the carpenters finish stuff. But as far as like the heavy lifting and stuff, I volunteered to help with that. So I did that yesterday morning at 10. I was the only one to show up, and they were like, "We're not ready yet. We haven't numbered the parts of the stage so that we know where they go.
Yeah.
So go have a coffee and come back later." And so I did. And so tonight, later, after I guess I'm going to do the Rudy stream. How can I not? I'm going to go over there and help with I'm going to help with the carpentry, because what's the point of going to the gym if you're not there for the heavy lifting? You know what I mean?
Watch your back.
Right? Lift with your knees, absolutely. That's how I do it. Anything heavy, I lay on the ground, slide my legs under it, and then lift with my knees. As I learned that from a book. So, kidding, it's ridiculous. And then tomorrow I do the same thing tomorrow morning to help finish up on those, and then we do speed running lines. And then hopefully the set is done by tomorrow night, built and rebuilt in the actual location. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we do full run-throughs, with in costume and everything. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the shows, and Thursday is the live streaming version. So southernshakespearefestival.org, kids, is where you get a ticket for that. And I think I will be able to have a live stream thing. I'm still working out the details. They seem to be a little behind technologically speaking.
Yeah.
Trying to get, if I don't have a link that allows my patrons to watch it live, I will get a copy of it that I can post for them. So it'll be either that. And then, what else? And then I've just got 4 shows this week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, and then I go home Monday and I'm back to abnormal. Crazy.
That's awesome.
And I got 4 foster kittens waiting for me.
I know. I can't wait to meet them.
They're super adorbs. They're really cute. They're so cute, and they're purring, and they're all bottle fed. So they, So they're just all they look forward to seeing you because they've been bottle fed.
They're super affectionate. Yeah.
And there's 2 boys and 2 girls, and everybody sucks the boys' balls because they're nesting and they don't know they don't understand. So you have to keep them separated so the boys don't get an infection. This happens with bottle fed kittens. You're like, quit it! Get off your brother's balls, you weirdo.
That's so hilarious.
So funny, yeah. So but they're all doing well. They got their first round of shots. They'll get their second round of shots in a couple weeks, and we'll get to play with them. And I think we're gonna foster them out. They'll probably go right before like Camden breaks for summer school, right? For summer breaks from school for summer. So he'll be around them for a little bit, and then they'll go because they've taken over his room while he's at his Yeah. So it's pretty cute. We got to clean it and make sure it doesn't smell like vaguely cat-like.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, you're wonderful. I'll let you go.
All right.
And I'm going to sign off. I'll sign off proper with you guys, but I think I am going to come back on if I can find the live feed.
I hope you find it.
Press com. Absolutely.
Oh, Rudy.
All right. Oh,
All right.
Rudy.
See you later, Hal.
Rudy. Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, Johnny Million, we love you. Okay, there we go. So hi everybody. Thanks for joining the show, and thanks Cassie and Tony and Norma for those for things, and thank you guys for the hype train. And what else did we have today? Let me touch this over here and open this thing, and on the dashboard, and then the stream manager. Oh, look at that. We're 1 subscriber shy of the 700 mark. 699, 1 shy. Anybody following that would like to subscribe? I'm just saying. Hype train. Twitch.tv/LSparks. If you have Amazon Prime, it doesn't cost you anything. I'm going to get so much better at that stuff. That's my new goal. You know how, guys, we talk about the 80-20 rule and all that around here where you try to maximize the things you're doing right and minimize the things you're doing wrong and try to focus largely on the things that are beneficial to your life. Not just financially. The 80-20 rule works across the board. I'm a big fan of it in general, as you can tell. But over the course of doing this show and developing and stuff, there are certain things that I need to start doing better, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna look hype train. Look at that. Oh, I gotta re-up the. Let's see. It'll have to register. You'll have a limited time to earn exclusive emotes. Well, that's lovely. What's happening there? And then there's an ad time. Oh, somebody said hydrate, by the way, and I don't have a beverage today. I didn't bring a beverage in here, which is a mistake because I should always have a beverage when I'm doing the show, especially when I'm doing other shows. When I have stand-up, you should look up the video of SNL, the public, Rudy was give a public talk. Oh, you mean the one with Chris Farley playing his son? Yeah. Yay! Thank you, Hal Sparks, for an excellent show, and I am a Patreon. Good luck in getting the set moved. Thank you, Norman. I appreciate it. Bless you. And I think we might have cleared the 700 mark with subscribers. We got sub points. 717 sub points, but not the subscribers yet. We'll see. Okay, we're getting there. Yeah. Anybody, so if you're just following, please think about subscribing. You don't have to do it all the time, but it's nice. It's really helpful. And you can support it all the other ways. I got to get there needs to be like a banter that I have that I just kind of can prattle out, and it will just get it out of the way, like taking a vitamin. You know what I mean? I can just take my vitamins and then move on. I need to work on that. That's going to be part of what I focus on post Shakespeare. How's that? By the way, I'm having so much fun doing this that there may be more Shakespeare in my future. A lot of people that are involved in the directing of this and stuff move around a bit. They do the different Shakespeare festivals and the like. So I might, time permitting, be doing a couple more of these. And I'm excited at the idea. I really am. Especially considering the stories that I have heard about the other celebrity guests that they have doing these that aren't, strictly speaking, the nicest people. I mean, beyond the fact that they don't volunteer to help with the set, which I did before they were telling me these stories, for the record. They do like Hal Sparks in tights, but who doesn't? I would love to do the Scottish play Dry Wit Geek. Absolutely. And thank you for there, I'm running an ad for you. Appreciate it. Who's in the show with you? No one you would know, Pauline. This is all the local cast, and then I'm the celebrity guest, as it were. That's how they do a lot of these things. They have one known actor play amongst the people who are up and coming. It's really cool. It's a great way to draw attention to it, whereas people may not, necessarily know of it, so the other people aren't people I'm working with. They're the people who filled my role in the past. And it's been rough. Oh yeah, I'm a celebrity guest. Hey, once Entertainment Weekly referred to me as TV veteran Hal Sparks, I think I can comfortably say. And when you've been recognized in Home Depot by Lab Rats fans with hair this long and a mask that covers this much of your face, I think I qualify. And it's not ego, it's work I've done. They're not saying, dude, that guy's tall, he must be in the NBA. Believe me, it's not. Have you ever considered Chicago Shakespeare? I have absolutely considered Chicago Shakespeare, especially now. So there you go. Home Depot, did you buy a single plank of wood? Yes, in a bag. Oh, no. Believe me, Summer has a hard time getting me to leave Home Depot without, ridiculous amounts of stuff because I'm crafty. I like carpentry. I never have enough time to do the kind of stuff I want, but I love building things. My next goal, if I can save up for it, is a new 3D printer because the technology has advanced a lot since the initial 3D printers, the two I built and the one that I bought. Interestingly enough, the two I built were after, I have a MakerBot too, which has outlived its usefulness and they stopped servicing it. It was very sad. I have an early MakerBot and a single with a single head on it, and they came out with dual head ones and all this stuff. And I built two. I built a Delta one, which is really cool. It's a tower one, and then I used them to make props and stuff on Lab Rats. In the spider episode, I printed out pieces of the spider to use and stuff like that. It was cool. And I've always thought that when I'm making my own shorts and those kind of things, I would design my own, if you make a sci-fi film, instead of just buying a replica gun and adding something on it, you could 3D print the thing from whole cloth. Really interests me as an artist. So I have all this stuff that I work with, and the 3D printers, unfortunately, that I have are just, at this point, oddly old technology. And they don't do the quality. Does Hal have an ass? Obviously, you have not seen Nerd Halen. And I will be wearing yellow tights and a codpiece in 12th Night. So yeah, you can judge what kind of ass I have. I have a rather high ass. It's true, Very little space between my rib cage and my pelvis. It's just part of my body shape. It's just what you learn to deal with. I wish I was longer, but I am not. So, yeah, the new you know me from Zoltan, not from Lab Rats. Well, again, Chicky, there you go. See, I have multiple outlets in this. So, and by codpiece, he means a piece of fish and chips. That is true. That's absolutely a piece of cod. Anyway, so where was I? Oh, yeah. So I will be doing more of these things because I want to. And it's been really lovely. It's been a great experience, both as an actor and working with these folks and doing live theater. I'm not one of these people who believes that live theater, that's where the real thing happens. I'm not one of those at all. As a matter of fact, I think acting gets more real the smaller it is, and oftentimes film is where that is, and the Oscars seem to have forgotten that, but that's another story. Over time. And that's why, by the way, I don't think Netflix movies should be included in those. I think they should get Emmys. Sorry. Pandemic aside, Oscars are for movies in theaters. Emmys are for things you watch on your television set. Netflix, Amazon Prime, all that stuff, you can get an Emmy. Sorry. You know why? Because there's a huge difference between putting something on a screen that everybody has in their house, I don't care how much you paid to do it, and getting people to go, holy shit, that's worth getting out of my house and going somewhere else and buying a ticket individually for that thing and sitting down and eating popcorn and watching it. There's a distinct difference between the two. And I don't mean it's one's cinema and the other one's not art at all or some bullshit like that. Most of the people who disagree on that term just have a low opinion of television, which I clearly don't have, having done some amazing work on television. But I don't think that just because Showtime is a cable network that somehow it's not TV. Netflix is television, folks. It's television. So's Amazon Prime. All of these networks. The difference between a movie and anything you watch on your television, unless you watch something on a movie later. And by the way, if you put out a movie and people don't watch it until it's on television, and that's where it gets its... I mean, there should be a technicality that says, yeah, it was released in a theater, but all of its money came from being shown on television, so it deserves an Emmy. Sorry. Oh, we broke the 700 number. Thank you guys so much on Twitch. That's awesome. Great work. New emotes, you guys. Fantastic. That's terrific. What's coming up as Shakespeare? Flappers, other comedy thing? I'm confused. Okay, so Flappers, let's see. Is Flappers tomorrow? Gee whiz. Because I think we were doing Flappers the following weekend. But yeah. So, yeah. Flappers, yes. Is Flappers tomorrow? Gee whiz. Yes. Yes, that's tomorrow. Yeah, I hadn't been promoting it because I was like, I have no sense of time. So yes, tomorrow, Flappers show. It's just later here because normally I do it 7 o'clock their time. So I was thinking about my rehearsal. I'm not thinking until the next week. So yes, tomorrow night, Flappers show. May 14th, Rush Ticks. This week, the 7th, next Friday, this coming Friday, is the streaming show. Tickets available now for the live stream of the Shakespeare, of me doing Malvolio and Twelfth Night. Whew. Yeah, there we go. I'm busy this week, man. Busy. Bahizzy. And by the way, I'm going to have to rig the show so that I can do my stand-up here by, I don't know how am I going to, I'm going to have to, move the camera up onto the thing so I can do stand-up. And there's a lot to talk about since I'm here in Florida. Oh, boy. And then I'm, of course, going to have to get a mic stand because this won't be able to reach, and then the sound will be terrible. You know what? All right, I'm going to leave you guys on this. This is another one of my Midwestern goodbyes. So I'm watching the Majority Report, a clip of it on YouTube the other day. Hi, guys. And in the same way that, TYT comes up in my feed sometimes. Do you have any idea how much money goes through those two organizations? I think TYT's paying they're dragging in $250,000 a month. A month. In just fan revenue. Not, any deals they have with YouTube and all that other stuff. Forget that. All the extra money they get from when people rewatch and watch their videos and all that kind of stuff, which every other YouTuber has to make their entire living off of. That's a whole, and they've been on for years. They have a special deal with YouTube. So they get boosted in the algorithm, whether they deserve it or not, all the time. And still, they're shooting Zoom background and Chink's got a tarp behind him. I'm doing this shoestring budget thing running around the country with this, one little microphone and this camera and a little ring light I had to buy that was transportable and my laptop, which is, I think, burning a hole in the table right now. I had to take one of the guest room TVs in this Airbnb and bring it in here and use it as a second monitor. And still, I got the little cup happening. We got a little, this kind of thing. I designed a background to update our background with the little Sparks logo. I mean, come on. I'm putting my time in. Oh, nice, Cellist. That's great. Well, I'm glad you found it. Because I give a goddamn about, and it frustrates me. You have no idea how, when I work to get the green screen cut out and just the lighting in here, it's just not possible, that kind of thing. And I move back home and I'm like, it's going to look so much better when I'm back at my place and I can, I'm back in studio. But even still, was Chink live in Glendale? And he doesn't, the studio's in Culver City. I know people are separated, but for crying out loud, man. His house is huge. Dude's a millionaire. This is ridiculous. And I look at, I go on, Sam Cedars, is talking to, he has a guest on, and they're using Zoom. Have you ever watched, you've watched Majority Report, right? You have to have. Love those guys, have my problems with them. We've been back and forth. Sam thinks I'm an asshole. Feelings kind of mutual, although I think I have less of a chip on my shoulder about him than the other way around. Not that he cares. It's weird. But the other, they're, they've got a lot of burn marks on them, and it's really hard for them to shake that. It's very strange. But they have, if they'll cut away, just like Steven Crowder does, they'll cut away to their tech crew because those people are mic'd and they can chime in, which is cool, whatever. The amount of gear they have in that setup, and you're using room dividers behind you for your show. You're doing this, you're slapping this together with Zoom. What? I get it if you're a baseline. If you're Stuttering John, dude he didn't even have a real microphone when he was using his laptop when I started helping him out. And at least he's trying to upgrade that shit. What are you doing? What are you spending the money on? Your show looks like garbage. TYT looks like regular news. Way to be creative and break the mold, guys. It just looks like you're LARPing as the evening news. And Majority Report just using Zoom. Can we do a cribs on these people? Huh? Because I guarantee, as somebody who's had, what has he got? 3 successful TV shows, top-rated TV shows. I guarantee that my digs are a lot more modest than theirs are. Just saying. Let's Crips all these people. Yeah, let's do a Crips. Yeah, let's do a Cribs on all these folks. But except Stuttering John. No one needs to be in his apartment, even him. John, you need to move. You got to get out of there, dude. Take your cats and just throw a match behind you. I understand bachelor living, but this is ridiculous. Seriously. It felt like hoarders. Quit it. That's true, Drywit Geek. I am a comedian and don't matter on that scale. Right. And on their scale. Which is great because I get to, slide by just, also having a career, still entertaining people. I love people who used to be comedians who do this and don't, and like you can't still be a comedian. What is that? Does anybody want to explain that to me? Does anybody want to, I used to do stand-up and now I do this. You can't do stand-up still? You can't do it, even if you just do it at night? Because, by the way, stand-up isn't something you do. It's something you are. I am a stand-up. I don't do stand-up. I've been a stand-up since I was 14 years old. I will be a stand-up the rest of my life. If I'm doing something else, I don't stop being I don't stop being an actor while I'm eating or in the bathroom. What are you talking about? I used to do stand-up. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. If you gave up, you didn't do it ever. It's not an activity. It's an art form. Knock it off. And so I don't get these people like, I used to be stand-up, and then yes, while I'm a politician, I will still do sets. I can't go on people's shows like my own show because I think there's rules about that, but I could certainly still do stand-up. It depends on what I say on stage, how much trouble I get into. I discovered how from first listening to a Saturday show on CPT. Well, that's an entry point. Thank you, Debbie. They lost their chops. We'll get them back. It just doesn't make sense. Thank you. I appreciate that somewhere in time. Some lose their sense of humor like Dennis Miller. Did he do stand-up? Well, Dennis Miller technically still views himself as a stand-up and still does it, even though he has the other shows. He still does gigs on and on. And he's not, he's not funny. It's brutal. It's awful. There was a time when I was doing colleges specifically where I seemed to be booked like right after Dennis Miller or 2 weeks after him by a lot of the same organizations for some reason, like as a palate cleanser or something. And all I would hear was horror stories about what a shitty person Dennis Miller was while he was on campus for 24 hours. And it's part of the reason why, and it's not unlike, I guess, some of the stories I'm hearing about unnamed individuals here and in other situations. And by the way, there's no excuse for it. You can still maintain your celebrity status and the honor and recognition that you have earned with a long and storied career without treating people like crap. You can still have boundaries about the work conditions you will subject yourself to or not without being an asshole about it. And you don't even have to get your agents to be assholes for you and demand and scream and hang shit up and just go, we need this, this, and this, and this, or I can't do it. And they go, okay, yeah, we can do that, or we can't. If they can't, you can't. Nobody, no harm, no foul. Who cares? But don't show up and then start asking for more shit. And then when they don't have it, being an asshole about it. And don't show up going, I have this, therefore I don't have to treat you like a person because you don't have this. Fuck that. No. If you're at a comedy club, you're definitely the reason the place is full that night. But you're not the reason it exists wholly. And so it doesn't give you room to treat the staff like crap, or the manager like crap, or the venue like crap, or the press person like crap, or the radio stations that you have to go and promote the gigs so that you have your audience there. And so the club has people in there sitting in seats, ordering food, tipping waiters and waitresses so they can feed their families. And if you're like, I don't want to do radio, blah, 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 then don't do the show. Somebody else who doesn't mind doing radio will. I mean, again, what a Midwestern goodbye. But I don't get I was a former comedian and now I'm a political talk show person. Like, you can't keep doing it. What are you talking about? You don't see that life is funny beyond the conversation you have? You can only talk about that? That's what also has amazed me, that those that do continue, who have kind of a Bill Maher-like career, only do political comedy anymore. Why is that true? What kind of, obviously branding is a curse, but damn, go do some other stuff. If VH1 brought back the I Love the Decades, would you do it? Yes. As a matter of fact, they would need me. Because I'm the only one of the original people that, since marijuana has become legal almost everywhere, that isn't so high all the time they can't remember. I think I'm the only person that remembers all the decades right now. So, yeah. What did I miss? Somebody was saying, I would love the shows. Yes, me too. I would love to help. Let's see. If they brought back the thing. Yes, it's totally a Midwestern. All right, I'm leaving. Because I'm probably going to be back. Let me go get some food in my gullet so that I can come back if we find the Rudy Giuliani thing. I don't know when that is. I'm going to look it up. Can't stop lying. I hate adding work to your plate on Saturday. If we can, either of us find it, then we'll jump at it, and I'll get back on there and take it live, because I think many people, and that sounded weird. That definitely sounded weird.
I like wood.
So if we can find out that stuff. All right, I'm going to sign off. Okay, that's it. I'm all right. Fine. Done. Thanks, guys. Thank you for the support, too. Really appreciate it. Amazing.